right, so welcome everyone to this presentation. Hope everyone is refilled from lunch and ready to go. So we know that all teams are service teams, and a service desk can be helpful for every team. And that's why I'm really excited to introduce our next speaker, Karen Clark. So Karen is an operations lead for Splunk's internal engineering effectiveness team. And she'll be talking about how she uses Jira Service Desk to support internal customers and scale across her growing organization. Two fun facts for Karen. First of all, she majored in Japanese in college and lived in Japan for a year to complete her degree. And secondly, she also hosted a cocktail music radio show in college and had internet listeners all over the world. So please join me in welcoming Karen.
Hello, thank you for joining me today. As Teresa mentioned, I'm operations lead at Splunk for our internal engineering infrastructure team. That is part of engineering effectiveness organization. And at Splunk, that includes developer productivity, QA, performance testing, as well as engineering infrastructure, engineering services. Splunk wants me to show this to you. If I say anything, it doesn't affect our stock prices. I don't know. Okay, there, you saw it, great. So our agenda today, first I'm gonna tell you about the engineering services team, which is the team specifically on which I work. Tell you a bit about our challenges, how we approached Jira Service Desk, how we decided to implement, and the kind of transformation that we saw using it. And I want to leave you with some words of advice. At the end, there'll be time for questions, and I'm happy to talk about how that advice might apply in your environment or answer anything else you may ask. So first, I want to start with a story. You're an engineering organization. You use agile techniques, probably Scrum. You go into sprint planning, you come up with a list of things that you have agreed to do, things you're obligated to do, you've promised to do. Everyone's happy, or as much as possible leaving a long meeting. You're ready to go tackle this work. So you get back to your desk and someone pings you in Slack. Hey, I need some help. You think, all right, well, I'll get to the work in a minute. First, let me help this person. They need support. In this case, Git clone is failing. They're not able to pull down the code that they need to work. So you fix that and get them set on their way, and okay, now it's time to turn back to your work. And then there's another ping. Someone can't get their build job to run in Jenkins, and you think, okay, well, now I'll help this person, and then I'll get back to my work. Oh, but it's 6 p.m. now. I really don't want to keep going. I didn't get anything done that I was supposed to. And I'm assuming at least half the people in this room know that face and know that feeling. So my team is specifically engineering infrastructure. We have 30 people. We're based in the US as well as in Shanghai. And our customer are the people who create Splunk Enterprise, the C++ product. They want to build, they want to release, they want to test. The teams in engineering effectiveness support that effort. So when I say customers, of which we have 850, I mean my customer, the products engineering team. So as you noticed, that ratio is kind of fun. 30 of us, 850 of them. That's okay. We do pretty well. We supported more than 2 million builds last year through our automated system, and that does not include what we're doing with Docker in our CI/CD platform to spin up individual containers to run some of our tests. So we have a pretty active framework, and this has just started to grow. Last year was the full year which we did the CI/CD pipeline. So we start in Bitbucket. We manage a Bitbucket instance for our Git repo. We build with Jenkins. We test generally inside Docker. And we deliver through JFrog Artifactory. There are a few loops in there where the code gets built, sent to Artifactory, pulled down in the Docker container to perform the testing. Results get sent to Splunk, of course, so we can Splunk our own data and see how the build health is, see any place in the system that we can make improvements, but also get those metrics I showed you. That 2 million number comes from our Splunk data. So as you can imagine, we have a lot of tools, we have a lot of activity, our team is international. We really want people to be successful, but in order to do that, we have to address the challenge of how do we deal with the interruptions? Every day we have people who need help. We have work that we drop, context switching to start on a sprint task, start working on a feature, and then have someone say, oh, but I need you to help me with this other thing. Stop what you're doing, help with the other thing, come back, and then you have to readjust to the time that you lost. You have to get back to where you were, and that takes time. We have a lot of unplanned work. You know, we're trying to do feature development on the CI/CD platform while at the same time supporting the users of the CI/CD platform. So no matter what features we think we should add, the customer is always going to come first, and we need to unblock them to do their work so that we can proceed on ours. Another interesting challenge is change management. We support not only whatever version of Splunk is being built today, but we also have contractual obligation with customers to support either the past 2 major versions or 2 years worth of code, which means every time we have built a version of Splunk with different architecture, different build systems, we have to keep those alive and keep managing those. Some of our older builds were built on Bamboo, so we still have Bamboo servers. We're in the process of migrating those jobs to Jenkins, but if something goes wrong in Bamboo, because it still exists, we still have to go address it. Change management for us means we have a lot of competing products and different versions of those products that we have to continue to maintain in order for the system to work. Finally, something that is very important to me is the opportunity cost of being on fire. When you're on fire, you're not focusing on development. When you're on fire, it's technical debt or decisions that seem good at the time now that you're paying for, and you're paying for them in supporting your customer rather than working on the code to make those problems go away. The last big problem we have is that we have in that team of 30 people, in a few different places, there are subject matter experts who are really our unicorns. They're the people who set the system up, who knows how the code works, they know the ins and outs. But if something fails, that person is who you need to go to get help. At the same time, that person is also probably almost always engaged in that future forward development. So we looked at all this and we thought, okay, what if there was a way to eliminate some of the interruptions, to put us in a better position? And you know what? We really don't need another tool, by the way, thanks. We have a lot of tools. Let's not get a new one. And how can we make sure that our customers can use this tool, that they're familiar with it, and that it's something that they won't be a big ramp up for them to start using? So we already use Jira internally. We have, I don't know, more than 600,000 tickets in our Jira instance, so it's very well loved. Why not try Jira Service Desk? So there are several parts to Service Desk that appeal to us. There is a portal, which is the place where you start, tells you where to go, gives you integration with Wiki, with Jira, the tickets that have already been filed, knowledge base integration, which is part of that, and then SLAs and reporting. Both of those features especially are helpful when you're trying to figure out if your team is making any strides against that tidal wave of requests from your customer base. Knowing that we wanted to take on JSD and knowing that we didn't have many resources, we took an agile approach. So first, we observed how others used Jira Service Desk. Not only in the company, there's one other group using it pretty successfully, but also how a few other companies had applied it. We looked at the case studies and some of the information on the Atlassian site, and we found, it seemed like a pretty good idea. We then stepped back and evaluated our own strengths and weaknesses, what it was that we actually needed this tool to do. I think when you're looking at vendors and you're looking at tools, you fall into that trap of, oh, look at all the shiny, beautiful bells and whistles, but is that something you want? Is that something your customers need? And how much of your time will it take to manage those bells and whistles? We configured a sandbox POC. We configured it, tested that, found some things that didn't work, did it again, and that iteration gave everybody a level of comfort with it. And finally, we came up with an MVP launch. The minimum viable product, in this case, was the smallest set of features that JSD offers that we needed to use in order to complete this first round, get everybody on it, and then we could understand how it worked and how our customers were using it, which again led us to implementing additional features down the road. Our journey kind of looks like the game Candyland. At least it's kind of like a little kid's board game. And we said, hey, what can Jira Service Desk do? How do other teams use it? And then a year or more sort of passed because we were busy making that CI/CD platform I mentioned. After CI/CD platform had shipped and we had customers on it, it became even more obvious we needed to do something about that. So that gave us the traction we needed. We did the evaluation of pain points, again, given the fact that we had this new platform to support. We tried Jira Service Desk in the sandbox. We did a POC for management, which was really important because Jira Service Desk requires you to have agent licenses. And if you are going to get someone to pay for those, then you want them to know what they're buying. And luckily, that POC was strong enough to indeed get that approval. And then we were able to launch it. Hooray! That's what success looks like. In case you ever wanted to know what success looks like, it's that. We learned a lot of things through that process, and that's what I really am here to share with you today. So I want to talk about the good things first, then we'll talk about some of the speed bumps that we hit, and I'll give you some advice on what I would say to start with when you begin down your own road. Simplified interface was amazing. The out-of-the-box interface was fine, but we were able to actually get a theme that was recommended to me by an Atlassian expert that made everything much easier to deal with. So as an example, this is what it used to look like to create a ticket for my team. People would go to a wiki page. Well, let me start over. There was a URL, a shortened URL, which when you typed it into your browser, it would take you to a wiki page. That wiki page had a list of 47 different components that we support and what they are for and why you would care about them. And then the end user was expected to read those 47 things and then go to Jira to our fast project and then choose that component and then file the ticket. So as you can imagine, we didn't get a lot of the right data. Things were misclassified. It was kind of a mess. So the Service Desk portal, this is a simplified theme with a little Splunk branding. Aligns request types, gives you the ability to search by topic, allows you to combine request types, which is a specific Jira Service Desk sort of terminology. use that in combination with the components you already have so that it's attractive, and more importantly, it has a search box which lets people get right to what they want to learn. The knowledge base integration, as I mentioned, is a giant win for us. It allows us to, in that portal that you saw, the customer starts to type what they need and knowledge articles will pop up. And so you can directly send them to self-service if they do that. In the original Confluence we had, I'm sure everybody who uses Confluence recognizes this, page trees, lots and lots of page trees, and you can search for a term, and as we all know, Confluence out-of-the-box search is not awesome. You maybe get someone's notes they took 4 years ago rather than having your desirable page show up at the top of the list. The knowledge base integration in Jira Service Desk gives us the opportunity not only to have knowledge base search by tag, which is what you see in the far left. In the center there, you see when someone comes to create a ticket in the portal, if they search in that search box, you are immediately shown articles that might go with the term that you want, but you also have the ability to file a request directly. You aren't locked into following the knowledge base path. Separately, if someone has ignored that search entirely and clicked on request type and is creating directly from it, again, there's knowledge article information. So on the right side of the screen, you see, we've found solutions that could save you time. So that will, again, prompt you with the same list that you would get from if you had typed it in the front page. So you have a lot of opportunity to shift left in that case. SLAs are another great thing. We kind of had them, but we never enforced them. That magical wiki page from long ago said, here are our SLAs. And no one enforced them, and no one ever looked at them, and the end. So that wasn't really helpful. Luckily, in Service Desk, you can set SLA goals based on any arbitrary JQuery query. And in the case you're seeing, take a little bit of time to promote my own team, you're seeing our 100% time to first response SLA value that we had in the beginning. So the SLAs also show up inside the ticket, so your customers can see what the SLA is, both for time to first response and time to resolution. Queues are another thing that we took advantage of right away. I think we haven't used them to their fullest ability, but they're definitely very helpful. So as you know, there are a lot of ways to find out what you need to work on in Jira at any given time. When you're a service team and you have a lot of incoming requests, those requests can often be conflated with or hard to justify with the feature work that you have already planned. So the queues allowed us to have each user immediately see what was open for them, what they needed to work on, if there were SLA misses. So there's a lot of great information you can get out of queues that I think makes it much easier to adopt Jira Service Desk, and it makes it more like a traditional case management tool that you would see with a Zendesk or other product. As I mentioned, there were a few speed bumps. The first one is interesting. There's this thing called psychological reactance. And what that means is once someone has had something, you should not take it away from them or they will be very unhappy. And that's really what we're doing on our team. We're saying, hey, you used to be able to reach out to us directly and we would help you directly. But now that we're trying to scale, we don't have enough people to help everyone who comes. We don't have people dedicated to being on the support rotation. Everyone's trying to do their work and help the customer. So when we went to Jira Service Desk, our challenge was to find ways to make that more enticing than what was already available. One of the ways we did that was to make the portal compelling, to allow them to self-serve. and to get the content that they needed in front of them, writing knowledge base articles, making sure the data was there that they needed, rather than coming into a chat room, asking for help, waiting for however long. We felt like this was, the portal was a good place to start that process. Pet peeve of mine, Service Desk removes the project from the drop-down list of projects. If your company doesn't know why something is suddenly missing, you can't really tell them. When we moved our project to JSD, people would try to click the list, find fast as they used to, and it wasn't there anymore. They immediately thought, oh, it's broken. They didn't know that it moved to another format. And this is something that I'm hoping that Atlassian recognizes and makes improvements to for teams like ours who go from a regular project to a Service Desk project. I think that could be a lot smoother. Our workaround for that was to take that URL, shortened URL I mentioned in the beginning, and just to use that everywhere. Everywhere you look in our documentation, in our chat rooms, we're saying, here's the URL, go directly to the Service Desk portal. And that's been pretty successful. Ticket assignment process. This is another one that a few people are unhappy about. One of those people happens to be my boss, and that's never really good when you make your boss unhappy by doing something new. Our process was when we would take a request from someone and fix it, we would assign it back to them so that they could approve it and say, okay, I'm happy with this. The people who are customers don't have a Jira Service Desk license, so we can't assign the ticket to them. Only Service Desk agents can have a ticket assigned to them. So we had to kind of find a workaround for that. We added a new status, waiting for customer, trying to make it really clear, also doing triage of the ticket queues and reaching out to people and saying, hey, is this done? Hey, are you cool with that? It's been fine, but it definitely could be better. And the biggest one for me has been Jira Service Desk is configured to help you, and if you make changes to your settings, it may not like that, and it may pop up a toast that says, I don't like this. And it may do that every time you look at your admin screens, telling you it doesn't like how you've configured it. And there's no way to get rid of it. And if you click the button, it will fix the permissions. The problem is that the permissions are set in a very specific way because we need to still allow access to the old ticket view to our customers. So people on our team or outside of our team will find an old ticket where they made a request 6 months ago, clone that, and then make that a new request. For example, we need a certain build, something that was relevant in the past. We could not preclude our customers from seeing the old tickets. So we had to kind of open up a hole in the permissions in order for that to work. And unfortunately, Service Desk is trying to helpfully tell us, hey, you can't do that, even though we need to. So that's another one I'm hoping to work with Atlassian to fix, because I think it's pretty simple. Maybe just a checkbox to override, but it has been a bit of a pain. Very quickly, we haven't used Service Desk long enough to have great metrics, but I can share with you what we have. The biggest one, we've seen a significant improvement in ticket resolution. So it used to be, if you see here, charted from the beginning of our Jira Service Desk journey, the number of incoming tickets and the number of resolved tickets were pretty much neck and neck. Now we're at the point where we are resolving more tickets than are incoming. We're getting rid of some of the old cruft that we had laying around for a long time. And we're also able to actually resolve things as they come in. It's helping us get ahead of the flood. As I mentioned before, my team has met 100% of its time to first resolution goals. And it's great to have the metrics to see that. And it's also a great way to tell other teams that, SLAs aren't so scary. It's definitely something that you can enable to give your customer at least an idea of when you will come to something. Or if it's a lower priority, to let them know that it's okay that it's lower priority. It will be addressed eventually. We launched with many knowledge articles. We were able to really improve the amount of knowledge that we shared with our customers, which was great. And I think what I would say for advice is that level of communication that we've gotten from working with our customers to implement this has really improved the way that we are able to portray support across the organization. So at first, people would come to you and say, I need help, and you would help them. It's very one-on-one. There's no paper trail. You don't know how many times a week or day you're doing that, and you also don't know what the result is. Because we did the POC and worked with the different teams to get their buy-in before we launched it, that allowed us to create that relationship with those teams. And it's really helped us to adopt features and to think about moving this forward. Don't be afraid to iterate. I feel like this is my mantra. We launched with a limited set of the features, as I mentioned, the portal, knowledge base integration, and queues. We had SLAs enabled for my team, but not any other teams. And there are a few other features that we want to move to, but it wasn't important for the beginning. It was more important for us to get our customers used to the system and make sure that they had a way to communicate back to us so that we could do that truly agile approach to rolling it out. On the technical note, there are some Confluence macros that are great for knowledge articles. One of the fears I had about knowledge articles was having to pick up content from the rest of the wiki and then duplicate it, put it in another knowledge base, which then meant maintaining data in multiple places in Confluence. There's the multi-excerpt and multi-excerpt include macros that allow you to designate a part of a page in any Confluence space that you want to include in the knowledge article. So if you join Jira Service Desk to a predetermined knowledge article Confluence space, you can put in snippets of articles from elsewhere. It's basically a hot link. And then you never have to worry about taking care of the content in multiple places. That's been one of my personal favorites, having to migrate many, many, many pages into the knowledge base. And I would say taking advantage of hidden fields is another big win. As I mentioned earlier, we had a system where people would go to a wiki, read all the different components, go to Jira, make a ticket, maybe put the right thing in, maybe not. With Jira Service Desk, you can, in each of the request types that you make, you can actually include metadata that is hidden. So if you know that a certain team will always have that ticket, you can put the field for that team. In our case, we use mission teams. So we have a mission team drop down in each ticket. You can put that field inside the request type and then preset a value and then hide it. So any request that comes in through that path will always have that mission team assigned. So small things like that allow us to get ahead of some of the triaging that's necessary, some of the sort of cultivation you have to do of your Jira content to make sure that things are actually useful for metrics in the long term. Because when you work at Splunk, everything gets splunked and you want to look at those metrics. In conclusion, we have so far from Service Desk gained the clean and organized portal, the knowledge integration, which has been super helpful, clear deadlines in the form of SLAs, definitely more on those to come, and improved reporting. The JSD reporting is actually quite useful. It also shows you things like knowledge article usage, so you can see how many articles deflected a ticket, which is very valuable. Reporting you can't get from other parts of Jira. What's next for us is a little more down the path of the long and winding road. We promoted at launch, made the articles, added the SLAs. We're here. Soon we will roll out SLAs team-wide. We hope to add the CSAT surveys. So after every ticket is closed, you can mail the customer a survey, ask them how their service was for that ticket or if they have any comments. And then we want to do some more promotion. We really want to, as we grow and as we add more features, we want to continue going back to the user base, showing them what's new and helping them see the light and start using JSD more. And that's my talk. Thank you.